Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
All I'm just doing roll call to make sure we have our board members will begin shortly.
Okay. Okay. Nancy,
Yes.
I'm here, but somehow I'm coming up as Thomas, I think because of the link I clicked on.
I was wondering about that. I saw about 5 Thomas Parker guests. So hello. Would it be appropriate for me to just ask board members if I go through names for people to respond, because I continue to see several Thomas Parker guests, and I think we may have our colleagues, but they're just not showing up for me to identify.
Sure, and maybe they can also type in, rename their participant name too.
That could yep. I see Ms. Johnson Watts. I see Ms. Brace. I see myself. I see Mr. Thiel. I heard from Lisa Conover, and I've heard from Audrey Matheson. So if Ms. Vega, Mr. Miller.
I'm here.
Okay, there's Nick.
I'm here and I changed the name to mine.
Okay, oh, now you popped up. Okay.
Okay, I should be up now. Yeah. Yes.
All right. Who are we missing? I know Ms. Harris is not here.
Mrs. Wilt, I counted 8 board members.
Okay.
Ms. Grace, Ms. Conover, Ms. Matheson, Mrs. Johnson Watts, yourself, Mr. Thiel, Ms. Vega, and Mr. Miller.
Thank you very much. Oh, I didn't, even though I said I saw Mr. Thiel, I didn't write him down. Thank you very much, Ms. Ramos.
You're welcome.
We have all of our board members. So with regard to that, as this is not a regular meeting, not my show, I will hand the floor back now that we know that everybody's here. Ms. Conover.
Okay, so I am up first. Bear with me. Okay. So you ready?
Yep.
I would like to call the policy committee meeting of the whole of the Allentown School District for today, Thursday, April 8th, 2021 to order. Prior to this meeting, an executive session was held to discuss confidential and legal matters. The purpose of tonight's meeting is to discuss 4 policies and then for them forward the agenda items to this month's regular board meeting, which will be held on Thursday, April 22nd, 2021 for its official approval. Mr. Parker, do you have any comments to share this time?
No comments, thank you.
Is there anyone in the public that would like to speak on non-agenda items? Nancy, do you see anybody?
There is a hand up, but before we go to public comment, if I may just have the floor for a minute. I would just like to read a statement into public record with regard to the Allentown Board's search for an acting superintendent. Over the past several weeks, the Board of School Directors has been engaged in a process to find an acting superintendent for the Allentown School District. The board has engaged the Pennsylvania Association of School Administrators, PASA, to post the open position. The board search committee is working with PASA to review and interview interested and qualified candidates who will serve during the search for a permanent replacement. As we conduct our search, we are seeking a forward-thinking school administrator who has the skills and experience necessary to lead our school district as we move forward. The board will finalize our decision early next week, at which time we will share our decision with the ASD community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Wilt. I see. We'll move forward and we'll have persons speak from the public. Could you please come forward and state your full name? Ashley Strange.
Hi, yes, my name is Ashley Strange. My pronouns are she, her. I'm the regional organizer for Lehigh Valley Stands Up. I have had a chance to speak with a lot of you on some of the policies regarding student safety, especially when it comes to security in the schools and the SRO programs. And I also know that you can't respond to this comment, but the Morning Call just put out an article saying how much money from the CARES Act or from the coronavirus relief fund was coming toward the Allentown School District, but there was no response from the school district on what they're going to spend that money on. As we are talking about school safety and as we are talking about focusing on the security of the students, if we were to focus instead of on cops in the schools and focus instead on creating areas where counselors could be available, I believe that funding is a big hindrance to being able to bring counselors in, especially with students who have gone through a really hard time, making sure that I'm not talking about guidance counselors, I'm not talking about job counselors, I'm talking about mental health professionals that can be available in the schools. And this is something that will be just as long lasting as fixing HVAC. It's something that will not only help these students, but also students in the future. So I'm hoping that the board will be able to release a statement about what they plan to spend that money on. And hopefully there's some input from the community on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Strange. The next person on the list to speak would be Jennifer Ortiz. Please come forward and give your full name. In the city in which you live in, I should have said.
Hi, Jennifer Ortiz, Allentown, Pennsylvania. Is this speaking on non-agenda items or agenda items right now? I do apologize. My daughter is on another Zoom meeting with a art contest and I didn't hear.
It's non-agenda at this time.
Okay. I just want to say that I'm sure many of you know I have not been pleased with the way the district has handled the last year. However, with that being said, I feel as though I need to give credit where credit is due. And I just want to thank you. Even though this could have been done a whole lot sooner, I am appreciative of what the district has done. I feel very comfortable sending my daughter back to school. I don't have any fears or concerns at this point. I just want to bring up that I feel like there should be a way, and it would still be under the capacity limit for kids with IEPs and 504 plans to be able to go 4 days a week. I think that those kids in those subgroups could really use and benefit from the extra help. And again, I do know that there is a way that that can be done and still be under the numbers, because the classrooms will not be at capacity in most cases. So if the board would consider putting a plan in place for that, I think, again, that it can be done safely, and I think it would benefit the kids in them subgroups to have that extra help, since they've lost so much over the course of the past year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Ortiz. Next on the list is Mrs. Sharon Billington. If you could come forward and state your city in which you live in.
Hi, Sharon Billington, 2 Street in Allentown. I have numerous concerns about the Allentown School District starting hybrid learning in a couple of weeks, especially in our high schools. Among these include how distance will be maintained when changing classrooms. What will the students be doing for the 10 minutes between the classes while teachers are cleaning their rooms between a class change? Bathroom availability and monitoring. In-person start times that are now earlier than the Zoom start times had been. Enforcement of COVID safety protocols. The lack of SROs. Technology limitations, failures, and availability. And will ASD in each school have a daily dashboard of positive COVID test results? And last but not least, the probable inability to get teacher substitutes qualified to do simultaneous in-person and Zoom teaching. I have heard from numerous high school parents that this information is not forthcoming, nor is it clear regarding these specifics. There are also a large number of students and parents who think that in-person teaching will be like teaching was previous to COVID, where in fact, it'll be a Zoom class. Both the students sitting in the classroom and the remote students will be using Accelerate or Ingenuity, and everyone in the classroom, including the teacher, at all times will be wearing a mask. This will undoubtedly result in communication difficulties for the students learning over Zoom, as well as those in the classroom. There was an article in Sunday's Morning Call that compared the failure rates of district's high school students in the fall of 2019, pre-COVID, to the failure rates of students in the fall 2020 with COVID. And every district showed an increase in this percentage of students that were now failing. What I found interesting was that the school districts with the largest percentage of increase from one year to the next were the districts that opened as hybrid or even as all in person. The Allentown School District and Salisbury School Districts, which were remote virtual, showed a 10% increase, where the other districts, which were hybrid or in person, ranged from a low of 2% to a high of 33%. These hybrids and in-person districts had more disruptions and closures due to COVID and other factors than the all virtual districts. Failure rates were lowest where the population was more homogeneous and with smaller student populations. Therefore, it appears consistency in the way teaching occurred had more to do with success than whether it was in person or virtual. In the article, a parent from Easton High School whose daughter attended hybrid stated that the teachers have to teach on Zoom at the same time, leaving little attention for those in the classroom. Her daughter had little interaction with other students and didn't see the point of sitting in a classroom to learn the same thing she's learning on Zoom. Saucon Valley, which had all in person, had a 12% increase in failure rates, and the superintendent blames it on social distancing in the classroom. ASD students will be returning for a total of 12 to 16 days worth of in-person learning. Is this worth the disruption of established routines, further learning decline since class time will be interrupted due to adjustment issues and COVID protocols, and most importantly, the risk of health consequences that will undoubtedly occur? Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Billington. Next on our list is Melanie Johnson. Please come forward, state your name and in the city in which you live.
Hi, it's actually Melanie Christopher. I live in Easton, Pennsylvania. Many of my colleagues and I have been hurt by things that have been said over the past several months about our character, drive, and overall personal and work ethic. So I'd like to take this time to share just a small handful of actions that many, if not all of us, take outside of our assigned work hours with the money we earn, in some cases, from the 1 or 2 jobs we have in addition to our job with ASD, and with the help of community resources we have worked so hard to gain for our students and their families. Purchase clothing items for students who need coats, gloves, and district mandated uniforms, shorts, t-shirts, and sneakers for students so they can take part in gym class and after school activities such as basketball and Girls on the Run. Purchase and deliver Christmas presents for students. Deliver food, workbooks, and school supplies. Purchase hundreds of dollars of Common Core-based materials to supplement and teach the Edgenuity Accelerate program content that is lacking and contains pure instances of bias. Purchase rewards for students and stamps to mail those rewards for their hard work. Purchase thousands of dollars of books so that our classrooms have libraries that span a multitude of levels that meet the needs of our students and engage them in reading. Volunteer to run clubs and other after-school programs such as Scouts, Girls on the Run, Basketball, Knitting Club, and Da Vinci Science Center. Drive students and their families to Allentown School District events such as the Allentown School District Foundation Banquet so that students can receive the scholarships they've worked so hard for. Write grants for materials and supplies for our students ranging from pencils and sharpeners to Osmos, a technological device that has a positive effect on student learning and engagement. Purchase furniture such as desks, chairs, toys, rugs, fans, filters, lamps, and classroom decorations so the students have a warm and inviting environment in which to learn and work. Donate furniture such as beds with mattresses to families and gift baskets and gift cards to raise money to build playgrounds, buy school pride shirts and other items for students and their families. Buy and keep snacks in the classroom for students who miss breakfast and are hungry. We purchased our own laptops, modems, routers, increased our broadband speed, and purchased better cell phones when we were given the order from the Allentown School District that teaching would be fully remote for the first quarter and then 3 quarters of the school year. We use our personal cell phones, data, and messaging to remain in contact with students and families during school hours, after school hours, and even on weekends. If we live outside of Allentown, we pay earned income tax to both our municipality as well as Allentown, all of which is returned to Allentown because central administration is located within the NIS zone, which makes us Allentown taxpayers as well. Not a single one of us regrets spending a single penny or a moment working for our students and their families at all. We love what we do, and we love our students and their families. We would just like to be recognized for all of the hard work, sacrifice, and dedication we put into what we do, whether we live in Allentown or outside city limits. Thank you very much.
Madam President, if I may respond to that.
Point of order, Mr. Solicitor.
So Mr. Miller's responding?
Yes,
He's allowed to respond if he wants.
go ahead.
Madam President, I know that's our board policy is typically not to respond to public comments, but Melanie, your efforts do not go unnoticed, especially all the teachers in this district. And thank you for your commitment to this district, to all the teachers. Thank you.
Thank you, Melanie, for your comments. Next on the list is Mr. Mark Lybold. Please come forward, state your name and the city in which you live.
Thank you, Ms. Conover. Mark Lybold, 2101 Mac Boulevard, Allentown. During the past few board meetings, there have been numerous self-congratulations among the board and district leadership about the progress made by Allentown School District without very little, if any, mention of the members of the Allentown Education Association that implemented the bulk of this work. Were it not for them, very little of this progress would have been achieved. Last month's meeting, the board engaged in commentary that indicated the lack of esteem held for these teachers. These teachers, for their hearts, souls, as Melanie mentioned, personal resources into their work here at ASD, as witnessed even by the harshest critics of the district leadership. They have been heaping praise upon the educators of this district. Comments made recently by the board members show a lack of appreciation for the work that the AE members have done for this community and for Allentown School District. regardless of where they live. It is the AAA members of this district that have made all the virtual transition during the pandemic happen. They've been asked again to reinvent the way they deliver instruction as we move to in-person hybrid model. Their love and commitment to the district students deserves to be acknowledged and complimented. The unwillingness of the district to sit down at the table and bargain a fair and equitable contract equally illustrates lack of gratitude and respect for the educators of Allentown School District. There's no better way to indicate your appreciation for the instructional staff than to give them the tools they need to provide a complete and rigorous education and negotiate an equitable and fair collective bargaining agreement. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Lybold. Next on my list is Ms. Latasha Brown. Please come forward and state your name and the city in which you live.
Good evening. My name is Latasha Brown. I live in Allentown on Randolph Street. I only joined tonight so I can commend and thank Mr. Dave Peters for doing an extraordinary job at teaching our students, or tutoring our students, math, and extending his hours to later in the evening on Wednesdays. I think that we should have more people that uplift teachers that are doing their jobs. Not saying that all teachers are bad, but all teachers are not good. And I believe in giving credit to where credit is due. So thank you, Mr. Peters. And I think it should be promoted more that he is offering math tutoring to anyone who is willing to attend his tutoring sessions. So again, thank you, Mr. Peters.
Thank you, Ms. Latasha Brown. I don't see any more hands at this time. So what I would like to do is I would like to move forward to presenting our policies. So our first policy is policy 203, immunizations and communicable diseases. I will turn this over to Dr. Brown and Ms. Tiffany Polak. Are we gonna do all three at one time, I should ask, ladies?
Thank you, Mrs. Conover. Because we did not hold our pre-meeting, perhaps we do them individually and then prepare to take them as a block during the voting meeting at the end of the month.
Perfect, thank you very much.
Okay. We have a series of policies from our pupil services series that Ms. Polak will present and discuss with the board today. So Ms. Polak, if you could begin with the first one and continue consecutively based on questions from the board.
Good evening, everyone. First is policy 203, which now includes immunizations. It was established to safeguard the school community from the spread of certain communicable diseases. The definition section includes the definition for certificate of immunization, which is given by the parent to the school as proof of full immunization. It also includes the definition of a medical certificate, which is the official form furnished by the Pennsylvania Department of Health, setting out the immunization plan for a student who's not fully immunized and given to a school as proof that the student is scheduled to complete the required vaccinations. Under the guidelines section, language was added in accordance with state regulations that any student that has not been immunized will not be permitted to attend school unless exempted for medical or religious reasons or provisionally admitted by the superintendent or designee after beginning a multiple dose vaccine series and submitting proof of immunization or the medical certificate on or before the 5th day of attendance. Also, students experiencing homelessness and foster care students will be admitted in accordance with the law, and language was added pertaining to health records, reporting of immunization data, and general language on communicable diseases in compliance with various provisions of the school code and state regulations. Does anyone have any questions about policy 203?
I have one. Oh, well, I guess, I don't know if it's, I guess it's kind of about policy. It's an immunization question in general, since we're doing this policy. I think we went for a waiver this year for immunizations so that, because we were virtual. So the rule is by the 5th day of school, the 5th school day of attendance. So are all of our kids currently immunized since we're opening our schools?
No, we still have a number of students that are out of compliance. Those students have been sent letters. We've been making phone calls. We've also scheduled a number of vaccine clinics. There is one scheduled right after the opening of school to allow those students who need to get vaccines to be vaccinated. So we have been communicating throughout this closure to families about how they can get vaccines and then scheduling them for appointments. But, you know, by the nature of having kids that are enrolling at different times, we always have some students that may not be immunized currently, if that makes sense.
And if I may add to that, we also hosted quite a few clinics in our Sheridan clinic so that we could provide an ease of access for our neighborhood families.
Yeah, I mean, I applaud the district for everything they've been doing to try and get them immunized, because I know kids haven't been going to doctors. But are we going to hold this 5 days now from the start of the 19th and the 26th so that our students and all other students are safe? If kids aren't immunized by that 5th day after they officially start back, if they are a hybrid student, that they will not be allowed in unless they're vaccinated.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. The next policy is policy 208, withdrawal from school.
Well, are we doing them? If we're doing them separate, do we need to take a motion at this time? Or you just want to read them one by one, Dr. Brown or Ms. Polak?
Oh, if I may, I was thinking that we could read through them separately, and then if it's the board's preference, we could take the motion at the end, but definitely deferring to the board and the.
So what I would recommend, Dr. Brown, is that we just take the motion now. So because if there's an issue with one, then it has to be pulled.
Okay.
So would you agree? Okay.
That's fine.
So I'm assuming there are any other, I'm gonna ask the question again. Are there any questions from any board members at this time regarding policy? What is that, 206?
Policy 203.
Or 203? Are there any questions about policy 203? I have one hand from, see who that is. Ms. Cheryl Johnson Watts.
Hi, just curious if, do we need to mention in the policy where this information would be held, or that it would be held in a database?
I'm sorry, Cheryl, which information? Just the information about immunizations in general?
Exactly. Do we need to include that in this? I know it says here something about being forwarded electronically. Do we need to clarify that it's being held in a database or not?
I'm not sure. It also is housed on our district website, but I guess that's something that we can talk about if that needs to be included.
The actual fulfillment of it, the recording of each child actually having fulfilled it. That's what I'm asking.
Oh, all of that data is housed in our Sapphire School Health System, and that is what gets reported to the state. Is that what you're asking?
Yes. Do we have to mention that in the policy or no? Or we just can?
No, that's a more of our process and speaks more to the reg and practice within the district. So
thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any more hands. Thank you, Ms. Johnson Watts. I don't see any more hands. May I have a motion to have this policy 203 moved to our regular board meeting that will be held on the 22nd of April, I believe. Somebody correct me. Did I have a motion?
So moved.
Ms. Cheryl Johnson Watts, second by
Nancy
Wilt. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposes? Seeing none, this policy 203 moves to our next regular board meeting. Now we will move forward to policy 206. Mrs. Polak.
Okay. Policy 206, assignment within the district. directs that the assignment of students to classes and schools within the district shall be consistent with the educational needs and abilities of students and the best use of district resources. So language was added under the delegation of responsibility section on assigning incoming transfer students, and language stating that the building principal shall assign students based on consideration of their needs and abilities as a recommendation. And in addition, language was added on the placement of twins or higher order multiples in compliance with the school code. Are there any questions about policy 206?
I don't see any hands. Are there any questions from my board members? I guess that was the same question. I don't see any hands. May I have a motion to have this policy 206 move to our regular board meeting of April 22nd?
So moved.
Mr. Charlie Thiel, and second by
Johnson Watts.
Cheryl Johnson Watts. Thank you. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposes? Hearing and seeing none, this policy 206 moves to our regular board meeting. And next we'll go on to policy 208. Mrs. Tiffany Polak.
Okay, policy 208, withdraw from school, states that whenever a student wishes to withdraw, efforts should be made to determine the underlying reason for such action. So this section was revised to be more concise. No student of compulsory school age between 6 and 18 will be permitted to withdraw without the written consent of a parent or guardian and supporting justification. Language was added on defining educational and life goals and the return of all school district-owned supplies and equipment, and the entire policy was updated for better clarity and organization. Does anyone have any questions about policy 208, I'm sorry.
I have a question. So can you say the ages of withdrawal again?
It would be over 18.
Okay, so if a child is 18 and still in school, they cannot sign themselves out, right?
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted to make that clear.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Hearing and seeing none, I would like a motion to move policy 208 to our next regular board meeting that will be held on April 22nd, 2021.
So moved.
So moved by Audrey Matheson. May I have a second? Second by Charlie Thiel. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposes? Hearing and seeing none, this moves on to our regular board meeting. I think that is, let's double check. Oh, we have policy 251 that, Mrs. Polak, can you read that one, please?
Sure. Policy 251, homeless students, is a new adoption. The adoption of this policy was recently directed by our regional coordinator of Pennsylvania's Education for Children and Youth in order to align with state regulations and federal laws that include the McKinney-Vento Act. So this policy recognizes the need to promptly identify homeless children and youths within the district, facilitate their immediate enrollment, and eliminate existing barriers to their attendance and education in compliance with federal and state laws and regulations. It ensures that our students who are experiencing homelessness have equal access to the same educational programs and services provided to other district students. It also allows us to waive district policies, procedures, and administrative regs that create barriers to the identification, enrollment, attendance, transportation, school stability, and success in school. So the definition section defines enrollment, the school of origin, and unaccompanied youth, and specifically what qualifies a student as homeless. In addition, it outlines the responsibility of the district's homeless liaison. The guidelines section outlines enrollment and placement and dispute resolution over eligibility and enrollment or school selection. And in this case, the district liaison would assist in this process. So the policy includes how educational records are treated, comparable services, transportation, and professional development for staff. Does anyone have any questions about policy 251?
I do not see any hands raised. With that being said, may I have a motion to have policy 251 move to our regular board meeting of April 22nd?
So moved.
Cheryl Johnson Watts, may I have a second?
I'll second, Mrs. Wilt.
This is Nancy Wilt, second by Mrs. Nancy Wilt. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
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 Are there any opposes? Hearing and seeing none, this policy moves to our next regular board meeting. And at this time, if there's anyone, point of order, I believe agenda items were supposed to go first and then non-agenda items, but at this time, if we have to make adjustments, and I will defer to the solicitor if that situation arises, but if there's anyone who wants to speak on agenda items tonight, please raise your hand. Seeing none, we'll move on to our next order of business, which is there any old business? Hearing and seeing none, is there any new business? Any grass catcher items? Okay. May I have a motion to adjourn our policy
So moved.
by Mr. Nicholas Miller? May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Cheryl Johnson Watts. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposes? None, saying none. This meeting is officially adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Conover. I'd like to call the Education Committee of the whole meeting to order for tonight, Thursday, April 8th, 2021. We have 10 items on our agenda. Mr. Parker, do you have any comments?
Comments.
Okay. If anybody has any comments from the public on agenda items, now is the time to raise your hand and make comments. Seeing none, we will move along. So the first item is the PSSA and Keystone testing. Dr. Brown.
Thank you, Mrs. Brace. Tonight we have presenting for a discussion on our PSSA and Keystone testing, Dr. Bierbaum, but I also wanted to defer to Mr. Parker for a moment before Dr. Bierbaum gives his presentation of the board memo. So Mr. Parker.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. So part of the dialogue for this evening is not an action item on testing, but a dialogue and a conversation around decisions that this district and a number of districts across the country are making as it relates to PSSAs and Keystones for the current year. Based on, and Dr. Bierbaum will get into some of the details, but based on the guidance that we're receiving from the Department of Education, there's flexibility that's being allowed in when districts are required to administer the test. However, we are being required to administer the test. So I'll be, really clear with my belief as an individual, and I hope that the Department of Education would have approved waivers to cancel testing for this year. I know the Department of Education here, as well as others across the country, have requested said waiver from the federal U.S. Department of Education, and as I'm learning, most of them are not being accepted in terms of canceling test scores altogether. What is being approved is the test must be given, but the scores won't be used for accountability, kind of rendering them a bit nugatory for the current year. However, we still have the issue of when tests are going to be given, and for ASD, as we prepare to transition back into our hybrid format coming up here in just a couple of weeks. If we were scheduling the exams to be this current school year, we would be transitioning directly back into testing as we transition back into buildings. The flexibility that's been allowed by the Pennsylvania Department of Education thus far extends the window of testing. And Dr. B, catch me if I'm telling a tale here, I think to September 30th.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. So the recommendation, and I'll absolutely say this is there's kind of a split amongst educators in the district and outside the district in terms of whether it's more valuable to test now and get it out of the way and not have to do it next year. Because if you test in September, you're essentially testing the kids on this current school year, and then they still have to take their next year's exam next year as well, which would be next year in the spring. As we've listened to the dialogue across the district and across the state, I'll tell you, I have some major concerns and trepidation around having students immediately enter school under the hybrid format and then sit for an exam that, even though the state is identifying that it doesn't count for accountability, we know there are a lot of other things that are tied to how students perform on those standardized tests. For me, first and foremost is how students perceive themselves based on the performance of an exam that we're legally bound to have them sit and take. My recommendation is that we extend as far as possible out into the beginning of next school year the testing window, so that our students that are arriving into the district have the ability to get back into the regular flow of school without having to be concerned about testing. And it gives us the end of the school year and the summer to address learning loss prior to having students sit for an exam that will cause some levels of anxiety with them without a requisite amount of preparation or communication from their school officials. So I wanted to just kind of give a bit of the landscape on why the recommendation from me as the superintendent sits as it does. We want to be able to have some dialogue with the board in terms of the pros and cons and value of giving the exam this spring versus extending it out to the summer, so that we can kind of get some guidance and go back and work with our team regarding the final implementation. So for Education Committee, this is again, the meaningful dialogue around testing that we need to have so that we build some level of consensus around when we want our students to take the exam, knowing that at this point, it is being required by the Department of Education. So Dr. B, I don't think I stole all your thunder, but I believe I took a little bit.
Thank you, sir. Share. Oh, I'm not. Does someone have the memo to put up? I can't share. Thank you very much, Mr. Rivera. The statement to update the board regarding the administration of the Pennsylvania state mandated instruments, which are the 2021 spring PSSAs, which are for grades 3 through 8, and the 2021 spring keystones, which are content specific subjects, Algebra 1, biology, and literature, will occur during the fall semester of the 21-22 academic year. What is it? In accordance with the extended time windows provided by PDE, students will be assessed using the Pennsylvania 2021 Spring PSSA and 2021 Spring Keystone during the fall semester of the 2021 academic year. How will this affect students? Students will take the PSSA and Keystone tests as mandated by states during the extended testing window, which ends on September 30th, 2021. Delaying the administration of these state mandated assessments will enable the district to more effectively address potential learning loss, which has occurred during the moat instructional period, which began on March 13th, 2020. There is no cost to the district. Funding and all other items are non-applicable, and the solicitor did not need to review the item. Thank you very much for your time. If you have any questions, I will take them.
Thank you, Dr. Birnbaum, Dr. Brown, and Mr. Parker. Parker, I would just like to say thank you for making the comments that you made. It addressed some of my questions that I had about the testing happening in the fall. I know I asked you this, but just so that the rest of the board knows the answer, can you just address how it's going to work for the fall testing as far as what test the kids in each grade will take? You know, like, so that what test would a third grader take? What test is a fourth grader taking?
Thank you.
Do you want to take that, Mr. Parker, or do you want me to?
Go ahead, Dr. B.
Third graders, fourth graders, fifth graders, sixth graders, seventh graders, and eighth grade will all take ELA and mathematics. Those are the PSSAs. PSSA science is only taken by fourth and eighth graders. In reference to the keystones are content specific. So anyone who is a first-time test taker, or is, a trigger course for algebra, biology, or literature, English for 10th graders, will be required to take the keystone. That includes first-time test takers, people who had a non-numeric score. What a non-numeric score talks about are the keystone recipients from last year. They got a non-numeric score. A non-numeric score means they are proficient, but if they wish to take it to get that numeric score, they can. And then it will also include the retest takers who have not previously expressed proficient or advanced designation for those keystone tests.
So I'll translate a little bit of Dr. Bierbaum.
Sorry.
So the students that are third grade this year would take the third grade test in September. So they wouldn't be taking next year's exam or the grade they're going to that exam. They would be taking the exam requisite to the year that they are in currently. So whatever test they would normally be taking in May, they would be taking that test in September. And then in the next spring, April, May, they'll be taking the next year's exam. Again, and I'll say, I still, and I'm one of those optimists that still hold out hope. I still believe that there is space, time, and opportunity for the U.S. Department of Education to do the right thing and cancel the exams for the current school year. I strongly believe and advocate that with everything that our kids have gone through, the best outcome is not to have exams at all. Ultimately, at the local school district level, we don't get to make those decisions. Even at the state level, they don't get to make those decisions. Those decisions can only be made at the federal level that then give guidance to the state. I think there's still space and opportunity. My hope is that we'll get there in terms of some relief for districts in the current year. But saying something in stone right now, I think the best outcome for our kids is extending to September. And I'll say as a parent, my child wouldn't be taking exams in May, in June. You could possibly convince me in September, but there's no way I would have my child transition out of virtual into an exam without having some extra preparation before she goes into it. So that's kind of the basis of which the recommendation is coming.
So just to clarify, that in September, basically grades 4 to 9 will be taking a test that tests 3 to 8. Does that make sense?
Correct.
So we're going to be testing 4th graders to 9th graders, but they're taking a test that's meant for 3rd to 8th grade.
Correct.
Okay. And I hear the concerns about not having them test at the end of this school year because of the stressing of tests and all that. Do we have any concerns about putting the kids through double stress in 1 year of testing them two times in 1 year with, I mean, they get a break of learning all year, but that they're testing September. They're going to go through the stress of testing in September, and then they're going to go through the stress of testing again at the end of April. Do we as a district feel that that's less stressful for the child than testing them in June and April?
So I think that's part of the consideration. And again, why you have, pros and cons and people that stand on both sides of the argument. And there are, again, some of these things, there are no wrong decisions. They're just different decisions. I actually think that it's more harmful to do it now than it is to have them wait and test in the fall. Part of what we do now for our students in those same grades is that we have a testing window for our local assessments. Part of the conversation at the state level has been giving districts the ability to use their local assessment data in lieu of the state exams. We haven't gotten a whole lot of love on that proposal yet. But so students they're not unused to having to take exams multiple times during the year because we do the localized exams already anyway. So this would be an opportunity to have this test as a replacement of or in conjunction with one of our localized assessments that they would be taken at the beginning of the school year anyway.
Okay, thank you. That's great to know. All right, Ms. Johnson-Watts, I see your hand is up. Ms. Johnson-Watts?
Thank you. I understand the enormity of issues surrounding the whole testing process. And I'm totally sensitive to what it means to students as well as staff. My question is something that maybe cannot be answered this evening, but I hope that we do have an answer if we are going to take the approach of waiving those exams. And that is, what will we have in place to proficiently assess any potential for learning loss while we still have the summer to address it?
So I can answer that for the most part now. So again, those local assessments that we have, Dr. Brown, you want to take this one? I see your head moving.
Oh, no, you go ahead and I'll bring up the rear
right.
as you finish.
So this is her thing. So the local assessments that we have currently, we're already kind of giving students tests on a quarterly basis so that we know where their growth is. And we're using that data to track how we create our program for learning loss in the summer, as well as the beginning of next year. There's leading indicators and lagging indicators. The leading indicators, those local assessments give us kind of right on the spot, on the moment data that we can use to inform instruction long term. The PSSAs and the Keystones are lagging indicators. They're going to assess the 4 years of growth for a student. And as we understand now, because they extended the window, even if we sit for the exam in May or June, we're not going to receive that data back until sometime in the spring of the next year because they have to allow all schools the window to take the exam, score it, and then get it back to us. So it would be late fall, early spring before we're able to get it back. So that won't even have any impact on our ability to drive learning loss programming or initiatives over the summer.
And I would just add to that while we acknowledge that there's been or could potentially have been a significant learning loss, Our benchmark assessments, which are aligned to state standard assessments, are a consistent routine assessment that we run throughout the year, periodically every quarter, to identify gaps. We're just changing our language for learning loss and looking a bit more deeply as we begin to build out our learning loss programming, along with building out our summer learning. So we have those local assessments that Mr. Parker is speaking to, but more specifically, they are routine benchmark assessments that our students are participating in, as well as classroom diagnostic testing that all gives us information to identify learning gaps, maybe some issues with other areas of professional development where our teachers might need more support, but all of that to give us a holistic view as best we can is what's been happening. So we'll continue that, but again, looking a little deeper and maybe longer at trends since we've been in this pandemic learning situation, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
Ms. Conover, I see your hand is up.
Yes, I just wanted to touch on, we're talking about things that are real, such as learning loss, potential learning loss in our districts. And we're talking about, I hear us talking about the kids testing in September, and then they have to test again in April or May. But I want the district, as well as our administrators and our teachers, I can't stress it enough, we have to be very careful of what we say and the words we use, because there are many students or folks, even adults, that have anxiety as it relates to test taking, but it's not everyone. So I want to make sure that we're not planting those seeds in our kids' head. We should be speaking more positive. That's what we're doing. I'm not taking away from anybody, but we just have to be careful, because if I walk around in my house talking about learning loss and anxieties and tests and back to school, I mean, my kid is going to say, look, I'm done with this. I don't even want to talk about it. So we have to do what we have to do to fix up. I'm not in denial. You understand? But let's be conscious of the language that we're using around our kids. And when we do go back to school, we have to breathe hope into the situation and let them know this is where we are now, but we're moving forward and we're going to do better, because we are doing better. So I just wanted to make sure that we're conscious of what we're saying, because these are our kids.
Thank you, Ms. Conover. Mr. Parker, you had said that you wouldn't have your child take them in May or June of this year. The parents are able to opt their children out of testing at any time, correct?
I do believe there's a function that allows for parents to opt their students out of testing.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
So may I ask, this is just a general question. What would a reason be for a parent to opt their kid out of taking the test? And I'll tell you why I'm asking this question. And I'm not speaking against you, Mr. Parker. I'm just want to know if the school district is a place where learning happens. Why would we not want to know where our kids are, and why would we pick and choose to test and not? That's just a general question. Like, for some parents, maybe don't give you a reason, but what are some of the reasons parents have given you?
So Dr. Brown or Dr. Bierbaum, you know the regulations to speak to?
So Dr. B, can you give the objective criteria that's been set forth by PDE on opting out?
The only official reason or rationale for opting out of the test is on religious basis. A parent can petition to see the test. They sign a non-disclosure act, and they review the test, and they opt out in a written format because of religious reasons. That would be an example. With the state, that is the only viable opt-out reason that exists within the PDE testing mandates.
So is this the reason that the parent will give? That's the only acceptable reason. But are parents saying, I'm not letting my kid take that test because of something other than that?
So
I mean, even if the other is not acceptable, I do get that that's the only acceptable reason. Yeah. But what are the reasons that parents, because where I'm going with my questioning is, for me, of course, nobody wants their kid to not meet the mark. But as a parent, I would pretty much want to know. So I'm just asking, what are the other reasons? I want to know what parents are saying to you.
So I haven't surveyed parents to identify reasons for opting out. I operate from the principle that everybody is going to take the exam unless they give that reason that goes through Dr. Brown's office for how they're opting out of the exam. And again, my conversation is more on timing delay rather than opting out for the test in general. I don't think there's I don't even think there's the option for the district to not provide the exam. I think we serve, to your point, I think we serve our children better if we give them more time and more resources to prepare them to be successful when they do sit for the exam. And so thus, for me, the recommendation, if the state is allowing the window to extend into September, then let's focus on getting our kids back into our classrooms, getting them back into some routines and some structures and understanding of that environment. And then let's make sure in the summer we use that localized data, target the babies that we know need support in X, Y, and Z area based on that data. So when they do sit for the exam, they have the ability to do their best.
And Lisa, I'll talk to you from a parent's perspective right here. My child's going to be in 3rd grade next year. I already have my opt-out letter ready to go. I, as an educator, do not believe that high stakes testing shows anything. And sorry if I shouldn't say this as a board member, but I don't believe it shows anything about a child's ability. And I have always been against high stakes testing. So my child will be opted out every single year. The letter's ready to go, signed. I just need to put a date in every single year for opting him out. I can tell if my child's learning or not based on other things. I don't need a high stakes test. I'm an amazing test taker. I did amazing on the PSSAs. I was in the top 10 in my class every time I took them. And yet my first semester of college, I almost failed out. So a PSSA does not tell you what you're going to do later on in life. And so I would never allow him to take that test. So there's a parent perspective of somebody who is going to be opting their child out every single year.
Well, thank you, Mr. Parker, and thank you, Sarah Jane Brace, for sharing. I appreciate you guys communicating that.
Are there any other questions? This isn't an action item, it was just a discussion item. So is there any other questions or concerns, anything from the board? We'll move on to item number 2, the ASD internships with the City of Allentown.
Mrs. Brace, one of the things that we're most proud of our central office team and our building level teams, counselors and principals, is our ability to be resilient and really adhere to our strategic framework and a number of those strategic actions that were set forth years ago. So one of those actions was expanding and developing our partnerships to be more of a value add to our students. And so Ms. Sawyer and her team have been working on a enhanced partnership with the city to provide new internships for our students, juniors and seniors over the summer. And so Ms. Sawyer, if you could present this item.
Sure. Good evening, everybody. Oh, he's got it. There we go. I actually have a little bit more on mine that doesn't look like the new one, but so we're requesting the board's approval to consider the City of Allentown's agreement with the Allentown School District for the summer 2021 partnership, internship and mentor program. The program includes an opportunity for the students to acquire practical experience in a professional setting prior to graduating from high school. The City of Allentown has management experiences, supervisors, and facilities available to be able to help educate and provide educational experiences for our students. The purpose of this agreement is to outline the arrangements, the duties and responsibilities for this internship program. Basically, it's a duration of the summer of 2021 for 12 weeks. It's a number about 6 to 8 students, And the hours are Monday through Friday for 2 hours a day. The students will be assigned with a mentor within the city of Allentown. The partnership highlights the core values that we believe in ASD: ensuring equity of access and opportunities, nurturing the pursuit of lifelong learning, and strengthening partnerships with families and communities. So how will it affect students? The City of Allentown management team will offer students an excellent opportunity to learn the intersection of conducting government operations and how it positively affects its residents. We seek to build and support a mentoring relationship to ignite the biggest possible future for our students. The internship and mentorship program is an innovative training program designed to launch students possibly into careers in these same fields. Strong communication skills, must be able to communicate effectively and efficiently with the managers and other staff. These are some ideas that some qualities that they're looking for in students, and to help students. Help them being highly organized, must be able to be focused and detailed, be highly motivated, capable of, helping out and moving projects and ideas into reality within the city of Allentown. Doesn't cost anything to the district. There's no match required, there's no staffing required, and it has been reviewed by the solicitor. Any questions?
Any questions from board members? Ms. Johnson Watts?
I just want to say this is wonderful. This is really wonderful. That's all.
Ms. Wilk?
That's what I was going to say as well. I just want to thank you for your efforts in making this happen. I think it's a really great opportunity for our kids to get a taste of what's out there for them. So thanks.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, do I have a motion to move this forward to the board meeting?
I make a motion.
Ms.
I second.
Lisa Conover.
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Wilt. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, this will be moved forward. Next on the list is the CLIU 21 facilities plan. Dr. Brown?
Yes, this is a standard item that comes before the board annually. Mr. Stickett will present the item and explain some of the highlights and key elements of this item for the upcoming school year.
Good evening. We're requesting the board's approval of the facilities plan committee report from the Carbon-Lehigh Intermediate Unit. The action item includes recommendations for the 2021-22 school year. In PA code, it describes the facility to describe the comparability and availability for students with disabilities. At Allentown, we are part of the Fair Share Agreement with the IU and all of the local districts. The attached plan describes changes in the Carbon and Lehigh counties for special education facilities. This proposed plan has no direct impact on facilities within the Allentown School District. And as for the students, it will have no effect on the Allentown School District students. If there's any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Stickett. I will let the board know that this item was really contentious at the IU board meeting as your board rep. The Carbon County move, which doesn't involve us, but the Carbon County move was very contentious because they're moving a classroom from Weatherly to Panther Valley, and there were some very upset Weatherly parents there. Just so you know, in case you hear anything about this move in the news, because the parents were going to the news about it. I just had one question though for whoever. One of them says that it's the life skill support elementary classroom location to be determined. Do we have space, or have they ever reached out to us to see if we have space to put this classroom? Because they don't seem to have space for it.
That discussion for the life skills classroom has not been presented to Allentown. And as for space, that's a whole other different discussion. Just because of the amount of low incidence classrooms we have at this time. We currently have 2 IU classrooms throughout our district, but they are for early intervention.
Okay, all right. Are there any questions from board members on this? Seeing and hearing none, is there a motion to put this through to the board meeting?
So moved.
Mr. Thiel, is there a second? I don't know who that was.
It was me, second.
Oh, all right, Mr. Miller, any discussion on the motion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, that will move forward. Next on the agenda is the screening assessment for special education. Dr. Brown, Mr. Sickett.
Mr. Sickett will move right into this item.
We're requesting the board's approval for the purchase of Q Interactive Digital Assessment Systems. The assessment tool is $48,000. Pearson Q Interactive is a digital system that delivers the most portable assessment tool. It is all digital. So basically what we are doing here is we are getting rid of the pen and pencil testing for all of our related services, which is speech, OT, and also for our school psychologist. Everything that you read here, it just means we're going to be totally digital should this move through. The changes will allow testing to be socially distant for face-to-face testing. It gathers much more rapport with students because of the fact that students are so engaged in electronics today. Again, the cost is $48,000. The source of the fund is the COVID mitigation grant. Questions?
Ms. Johnson Watts?
Will this enable us to do even more testing within a particular window of time?
Absolutely, that is correct. One thing that this does, it takes away from the time that school psychologists, when doing the pen and pencil assessments, they also have to score them. In this automatically will score them. That takes up a tremendous amount of time. So yes, it is very efficient.
This is great news. I'm familiar with Pearson from when I was a financial advisor. I had to go to their locations to take their test, and they have an excellent reputation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson Watts. Ms. Wilt?
Yes, I just had a question. Will this allow us to provide testing to our ESOL students in a language that's more comfortable to them?
Yes, there are numerous languages attached to this.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wilt. Are there any other questions or comments from the board? Seeing and hearing none, is there a motion to put this
So
through?
moved.
Mr. Thiel, is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Wilt, any discussion on the motion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? That will move forward. Next up is headphones for elementary and special ed students. Dr. Brown, Ms. Bryant.
Yes, Ms. Bryant will be presenting an item that really comes from a lot of the feedback that we've gotten from our teachers and our families as we continue to hold our monthly parented working group sessions and hear from our instructional staff that were in the building participating in the pilot and also entered into our buildings on the 6th. So Ms. Bryant will share this item, and again, this will round out our technology package at the student level.
Yes, sorry, good evening. Having a difficult time with my computer. Tonight we request the board's approval for the purchase of 7,025 headphones to support elementary and special education students in the hybrid environment. Headphones are an enhancement to the existing devices for students. The purchase of headphones will provide a complete technology package to engage students in independent, personalized learning, which supports Strategic Area 2 and the Allentown School District Strategic Framework. How will it affect students? Headphones will enable students to remain connected to online learning platforms while causing minimal noise and distraction to others in the hybrid classroom. The cost is $135,231.25. The source of funds will be Title IV in the Special Education COVID Mitigation Grant. The cost is not accounted for in the current budget. There is not a match required, and this action was not reviewed by the solicitor.
Thank you, Ms. Bryant. I just wanted to say I was so happy to see these were USB headsets. I had so many headphone jacks broken off in headphones this year. So the USB ones are much better. So good job. I do have a question though about that it's just for elementary. Is middle school and high school doing their hybrid different, that they're not all zooming in? Or are we just requesting that because they're high school, middle school, that they're going to bring their own and we're anticipating they won't break as often as an elementary school child would? And can we share them? If the middle school needs them, can they be shared?
The middle school will be making their purchase individually at the building level. Just a reminder that they received quite a bit of CSI funds, and we were able to build that out at a lower cost individually at the building level for them to purchase on their own.
Okay.
end. Mhm.
Okay, great. And then, so this technically won't officially be approved until the 22nd after the kids are back in. Are we going to just ceremonially approve it? Are we ordering these now so that they'll be in by the 19th, or what? And how quickly will we get these? I guess is my question.
Is IT available to respond to that question?
Oh, sure. They are available and they're ready to be shipped once they receive the order. As a matter of fact, the company is holding those specifically for us, so nobody else could buy them.
So is that something that we as a board can say we're good with getting them now so that they're here and then just officially vote on it? I guess that's a solicitor question. Officially vote on it so that it's an official vote, because otherwise the kids, you'll potentially have children starting school on the 19th who may not have headphones.
Sorry, Ms. Briggs, what's your question?
So if we wait to approve this until the 22nd at our regular board meeting, I know it needs an official approval, but is there some way we as a board tonight can say, can tell administration, go ahead and place that order today so that we have these in time for the start of the 19th?
Yeah, you're able to do that.
Okay. So board members, I'm asking, if anybody is against purchasing these headphones, speak now so we can hear that you're against purchasing these headphones. If not, then tonight when we vote to put this through, we're voting to put this to officially approve at the end of the end of the month, but also to tell administration that it's okay to buy them tomorrow so that we have them. That's what the record should reflect. So is there any board members out there who say we should not have these headsets?
Point of order question.
Yes.
I'm just wondering what our policy states on that regarding the purchase, because it's not an official move by the board in the committee meeting, and then it's being a purchase. I would think that's probably addressed in a policy that we have already now. So I'm just questioning our solicitor on the policy. I just don't want to do anything that violates our current policies. There is another way to go about doing it, obviously, is there might be some other ways to go about doing it, but I don't want to say that we're actually doing a vote that constitutes an equivalent of a vote at a board meeting when that would violate a policy.
Well, then I would have to check the policy, then we'd have to put off the vote. Which is fine. I could do that.
Mr. Parker, I see your hand is up. You're muted.
I was trying to figure out how to raise my hand. So what understanding kind of the need, the time frame, and the concern about policy. I do believe, again, from what Mr. Rivera said, we do have a really good relationship with the vendor. Our board meeting is on the 22nd. My elementary students come back in on the 19th. I believe that we will be able to take delivery on those very shortly. If they're willing and able, they may actually ship some out early. But at the very least, if we approve on the 22nd, the students will only have 2 days without those headphones, so we can communicate to our parents to make sure that they have headphones for the first 2 days of class, and then we'll have those in definitely for the second week of class. So at the very least, there'll only be 2 days for students to not have them, but we'll work with the vendor to see if they're willing to support us on getting that in ASAP.
Okay, I'm okay with that as long as I know the kids are gonna have headphones are an issue.
Thank you, Mrs. Brace. Clearly, I want the same objective. I just don't want to do something that may be inappropriate and then also create a precedent at that point.
Right, yep, I got you. Okay, so we'll take that out. We'll just try and see if they can send us some.
Jose works wonders.
Okay, I know he does. Are there any other questions or comments from the board on this? Okay, do I have a motion? I don't think I did a motion yet. Do I have a motion to put this through to the meeting at the end of the month?
So moved.
Mr. Thiel, seconded by Ms. Wilt. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, this moves forward. Next on the agenda is the Waterford Upstart Summer Programming. Dr. Brown, Ms. Bryant?
So again, our team is still able to maintain course and focus on the priorities set forth in our strategic framework, where we discuss expanding our kinder readiness and preparedness initiatives. This Waterford summer program will do just that through 3 key elements or pathways, if you will. And Ms. Bryant will present on that and share a bit more about the program and how it will seek to help and support incoming kindergarten students.
Yes, so tonight we request the board's approval to engage incoming kindergarten students and their families in the Waterford Upstart program for summer 2021 enrichment. Waterford is an online educational program designed specifically for early learners and promoting school readiness. The Waterford Upstart program will provide participating families with personalized family coaching and a new computer and internet if needed, in addition to the access to the educational platform at no charge to families or the district. Incoming kindergarten students will have access to an educational program for enrichment over the summer. The access will help to address learning loss that children may have experienced due to lack of access to pre-K educational programming due to COVID or other barriers. Incoming students participating in this program will work on skills to prepare to meet with academic success in the kindergarten classroom. The Waterford Upstart program supports the district's commitment to Strategic Area 2 as the program adapts to the students' levels, providing a personalized learning path. This focus on incoming kindergarten students supports the district's work in meeting our objectives of increasing pre-K exposure and increasing kindergarten readiness. Enrollment in the program will target incoming kindergarten students at the Jackson Early Childhood Center. There will be no cost to the Allentown School District for this program. And the match required will be that Allentown will utilize Project 10 Million to provide hotspots to participants. And a point to explain for Allentown matching with the internet piece is that the amount of families that we would be able to serve through the funding with this program will be somewhat of a variable depending on the extent of need that that family has. So the more need that the family has, meaning costs that we have to supply, meaning if they do need a computer, if they need internet, that will put us on the lower range of the amount of families. So by Allentown being able to take advantage of the Project 10 Million, we can extend some of that and move our families up so that we can reach out with the current funding dedication from Lehigh Valley Reads and United Way to service more families in the district that are incoming.
So if I may, what that means is by utilizing our internet access through Project 10 Million, which extends a 5-year period, we'll be able to outfit our families with internet access from kindergarten throughout the next 5 years, and thereby use that internet piece of the program and fold that back into devices or whatever else is needed. So not using their internet access, using our own, and utilizing everything that we can from the program that we typically have as a scarce resources, i.e. devices, if that makes sense.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Branch.
No, I was just gonna say, was there anything else for it?
I did not know there was an MOU attached with this. If you require me to go over any pieces of that, I can. Otherwise, I can address questions.
I think only if there's a question, we'll go through that part. Ms. Wilt, I saw that your hand was up.
Yep, and you may have said this, and I may have just missed it, but I just wanted to make sure. So when our families are registering their kids for kindergarten, this information will be provided at that time, so that and we'll be using other means to make sure that all of our families are aware of the opportunity, right?
Yes. Should this be approved, we will move forward with advertising this opportunity for families who are registering, as well as circling back with families who have already registered for kinder, and making sure that they all have the same opportunity to take advantage.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wilt. Ms. Johnson-Watts, I see your hand is up.
Yes, I just want to be sure I'm reading this properly, because it sounds like a wonderful program, and I'm excited about what I believe is that they will be providing these devices and that we will be providing the internet access. Okay, but is it exclusively for Jackson Early Learning, or will all kindergartners or incoming kindergartners be able to participate?
We are strategically offering first to Jackson because it does service 2 of our highest need, high priority elementary schools are funneling students into that kinder center. So we will begin there, but we certainly will not be overlooking other areas, particularly if we cannot place families into the program. We will not be losing spots. We will be opening it up.
Okay, thank you. So it's more like starting with a manageable unit, and we'll see how this all goes.
Correct.
Okay, thank you so much.
And I'm looking on here. I thought I saw somewhere the number of kids. Do we know how many kids we can put this to?
Yes.
Yes. So what the current funding offered to us is a range between 80 to 200, circling back to the need. By us being able to provide those hotspots, we're estimating that we should be able to push up into the 100 plus. And I know we do have Angela Zanelli, who is my contact with Lehigh Valley Reads, is here with us this evening. I do know that she is working, trying to secure additional funding for us, but in the current parameters, we're looking at right around there, but up to 200.
Okay. All right. I was very excited to read this as a former pre-K teacher. You know, people say get the kids off of devices, but I'll tell you, kids learn on devices. And this is amazing for our families who don't have access to quality pre-K. This at least gives their kids a little bit of a head start for something that's a quality program. Are there any other questions? No? Okay. Do I have Ms. Johnson-Watts? Oh, you're muted.
I just thought Mrs. Zanelli was going to say something. I guess not. I don't know.
If you have anything to say, you can.
No, I'm just excited to be able to partner with the Allentown School District. Lehigh Valley Reads had to redirect some grant money. We actually have a pilot of Waterford Upstart right now happening throughout the valley. We have about 125 incoming kindergartners who are using it, and so far so good. So we're happy to be able to offer this for this summer to help our incoming kindergartners in Allentown. So thanks for the opportunity to work with you all.
Thank you. All right, do I have a motion?
Make a motion.
Ms. Conover, is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Wilt, any discussion on the motion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? This will move forward. Next on the agenda is the much anticipated graduation discussion. Dr. Brown.
I'll hand this over immediately to Ms. Ramos.
Thanks, Dr. Brown. Before I turn it over to Brandy and Mr. Smith and the team, I just wanted to recognize that this year is obviously a much different year. And so we're coming to you tonight to discuss graduation being held June 17th, 18th, 19th for Building 21, DRF and Allen. And we're bringing forward a contract tonight different than typical contracts. This one is for staging equipment so that we can hold our graduation at J. Bernie Crum Stadium. Still here in the city, but under the standards of what the governor has in place for us. We've thought long and hard and have been planning with our graduation committees at all three of the high schools to bring forward a plan that best supports our families being able to be present to recognize our graduates. So as you're aware, the governor's order allows a 25% indoor capacity right now, and that limits us at PPL Center quite tremendously once staff is taken into account and our many graduates. It would limit the number of families that could attend. So when we look at the capacity of J. Bernie Crum Stadium, which holds 15,000, and the governor's order right now allows us at 50% capacity, we have the opportunity to still allow 7,500 attendees, including our staff and our students, into the venue, which would tremendously increase the amount of families that are there to celebrate their children and their family members. So our committees with our principals and their teams, and in this particular space, facilities department, because we're dealing now with the stadium and our turf, we're coming forward tonight after a lot of research, a lot of homework, and a lot of conversation to discuss a contract that gives us the opportunity to have staging equipment and what we need to have that safe graduation. So we're not only planning a graduation outdoors, which is a new event for us, we're planning a socially distant, safe graduation space down on the field. So I want to commend first and foremost, Brandy, the principals who were welcome to be here this evening to also be present for any questions. And Mr. Smith and his team, who have, in addition to be preparing for opening of schools, are actually preparing to close schools and graduate students. So I'm just kudos to that group. And so I'm going to turn it over to Brandy and Tom and the team so that they can walk through those details with you, as this is really new for us.
Okay. Jose, are you going to put up the memo, or do you want me to? Okay. So as Ms. Ramos had alluded to, we're requesting the board's approval to contract event staging, production services, and action party rental for commencement at J. Bernie Crum Stadium for Building 21 on June 17th at 6 p.m., DRF on June 18th at 6 p.m., and William Allen High School on June 19th at 6 p.m. for a total of $38,430.20. What I'd like to just call attention to is what they're going to be doing with all of the planning of an outside graduation for the first time. Event staging is the production service that they're going to be providing production services at J. Bernie Crum for all three graduations that include ADA accessible stages, sound system, 2 video cameras, video switchers, 2 video walls to provide for all participants sitting in the stands to be able to see. In addition, they'll be providing the staff to set up, break down, and run all of the equipment, in addition to the plywood to protect the synthetic turf during the process of setting up, breaking down, and while the stage is on the turf. Action Party Rental will be providing the chairs for all three graduations as well. We're looking at currently with the outside numbers being at 7,500 at J. Bernie Crum, we're looking at each graduating senior receiving about 4 tickets for family members to attend, with the potential for more, depending on where we are with numbers. So we didn't want to set that as a total, but staying within CDC and state of Pennsylvania and ASD social distancing guidelines, as well as all current health and safety protocols and guidelines being implemented and expected while in the stadium. The graduation ceremonies will be live streamed and recorded as well. The amount is budgeted in the secondary budget. So it is accounted for, and it has been reviewed by the solicitor. So I have here with me tonight, just to help answer any questions that you may have, Tom Smith, and I have Mr. McCool from DARIF and Telsa from Building 21.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the board? Ms. Johnson-Watts.
I'm very sorry to hear that PPL Center was not a possibility, but I have to tell you, I'm very excited to hear that J. Bernie Crum Stadium is going to be brought into what I believe is its rightful place. I have always been a fan of the stadium. I think it's one of our city's greatest assets. That being said, I just want to be certain that we are allowing for a contingency on the budget for doing this in such a manner that in the event that it does rain, we have already taken precautions in terms of the type of flooring that is being used, so that the runoff is in such a manner that the next day is suitable or not suitable. Because we could pull off an event on Thursday, but then Thursday night it rains. And so it makes Friday difficult. So I appreciate all the planning that has been done already. I think this is wonderful. I just hope that, we have also considered that. And I would request on behalf of everyone planning this, that there is a contingency percentage allowed for if we have to approve this budget amount, so that we are able to be flexible and turn on a dime in case there's any unexpected activity.
We do have a meeting scheduled with the turf company and facilities. Tom Smith helped me out on this next week, to be able to run through and actually plan out where the stage would be, what we would need that's necessary within the guidelines of what we have put out already, to make sure that we follow all protocols to protect the turf as well, and to ensure safety.
That was very good, Brandy. I'll just add a few more things. So we are meeting with the representative of the company that manufactured and installed our current field. That company's name is Sprint Turf. We will be meeting with them on site with event staging as well. Event staging has done many of these events on AstroTurf. So they're quite aware of the procedures, whether it's fair weather or inclement weather. But we'll go over those protocols in person with all parties concerned to certainly address all of our concerns.
And just to circle back, that budget allowance for contingency, I think it's critical so people don't get stuck as things are happening. And I don't know if we need to approve that along with this approval or not, but I really hope that everyone understands that there are times when there are unexpected expenses, and we want to be able to be certain that people have that flexibility, that they're able to handle what needs to be handled.
So Mrs. Johnson-Watts, you're asking for us to be able to have the flexibility of a contingency. Is there a cap you'd like to maybe limit us at? We're asking for approval for 3843. Would you like to give us the flexibility to go to a certain amount without approval? Or is that what you're asking?
I don't know if it's appropriate for it to be said here, or I guess it would be appropriate to be said here. But many industry standards is in the vicinity of 10 to 20%. And I think that it's, once again, it's money that you hope you will never have a reason to spend, but at the same time, it gives you the ability to turn on a dime and keep things moving.
Ms. Ramos, were you looking for a set number on that?
I mean, if that's the board's wish, I just wanted to make sure we capture Mrs. Johnson Watt's request. And obviously, I think she's pretty much telling us that we shouldn't have to come back here again should we need to exceed 38,000 for some reason. But I also want to ensure that there's an understanding that we wouldn't, you know, be exorbitant should there be a need, that we would come back if there is a need at a certain threshold.
Ms. Johnson Watts, could you set a threshold there that you'd be comfortable with?
I would say an additional $7,000.
So we'll rework the memo for the board approval at the end of the month that says there's a contingency of approximately $7,000 that we can exceed without board approval. And if it were to exceed that, that we would come back to you. Does that capture it?
That sounds great.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson Watts. Are there any other questions or comments from the board? I'll just say thank you to everybody for working on this to give our kids a graduation this year. It'll be great.
As a parent of seniors, I would echo that. Thank you.
I think everybody is very excited to be able to do this at J. Burney Crum. So everybody is well invested in getting this planning underway.
Wonderful. Okay, so so when we vote on this, it's going to be for the 38,430 plus a $7,000 contingency, which will be added on for the meeting, but just so we all know that's what it is. Is there a motion to move this forward?
So moved.
Will, is there a second?
Yes, second.
Johnson Watts, okay. I thought I saw your mouth, but I wasn't sure. All right, so first Ms. Wilt, second by Ms. Johnson Watts. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, that will move forward. And next on the agenda is the district calendar discussion. Ms. Ramos.
Sure, thank you, Mrs. Brace. Tonight, you'll see in your board packet a memorandum that's requesting the board to actually review 2 calendar options and provide us direction on which option you'd like us to take forward to the end of the month. And so option A in your board packet this evening is adjusting our student start to before Labor Day, which would be approximately, which would be August 30th. That would push the teacher start date to about August 24th. There are no other changes within the body of that calendar. The student end date, pending emergency closures, we never know what will happen, is June 9th. So that is a new option. It's an option that is essentially considering students begin before Labor Day, and we would then adjust, obviously, all bargaining units based on the number of working days in their current bargaining agreements. Option B is to maintain the status quo calendar, which has students begin after Labor Day. And this year, that would be September 7th. And the student end date, barring any emergency closures, would be June 15th. And again, there have been no shifts to the holiday schedule or anything of that nature. We simply took 2 options. One option was the status quo. The other option was to adjust the start to the week prior to before Labor Day, which gives us your end date a week earlier. We're requesting the board provide us some direction on which option they'd like us to move forward in planning for the 21-22 school year.
Thank you, Ms. Ramos. And I will let the board know that this was a discussion item that I brought to the Education Committee for us to have. The Education Committee discussed it, where unless something has change, I won't speak for anybody. I'm in favor of option A. I have been asking for us to start before Labor Day already. For this school year, I was hoping for it to happen. However, I put off the request because of the new elementary school and COVID, and we didn't know if it was going to open in time, and we didn't know if we were going to be in schools. And I put the request off. But especially now, after having the discussion we had all the way back in the beginning of this meeting about PSSAs, putting our kids in the schools a week earlier gives them an extra week to establish routines and to get ready for the school year before throwing those PSSAs at them. It also gives our high school kids who are working, our seniors who are graduating, it puts them out into the workforce earlier if they are going to work, or, you know, whatever their after school plans are, it puts them out there earlier, and it puts them out there in line with when their suburban counterparts are going out, because we are the only school district in the Valley that goes after Labor Day. So I just wanted you to know where this is coming from. This was not an administration push. This was me taking it to the education committee, and after we had a discussion, it was to move the start date, but we brought both calendars so that the board can have a say in this and have a discussion. But before we leave tonight, we have to let administration know which one we want. Ms. Johnson-Watts, I see that your hand is up.
Yes, I haven't heard it mentioned, so I'm curious. Do we have a sense of our teachers' feedback on this?
Mrs. Johnson-Watts, we met with every bargaining unit because it doesn't just affect the teachers, and we did get feedback from them. I think collectively, folks appreciate being able to leave earlier in June as the heat gets there. There's also the conversation that, you know, a lot of folks are around us. I believe every district around us is also on that before Labor Day schedule. So collectively, there's an understanding that it makes sense. I think, to be perfectly honest, it's very new for us. And so the mind shift and the planning on people's parts is going to have to turn, which is why we're trying to get this conversation out sooner rather than later so people can plan as they need to. But we did speak to every unit.
Thank you.
Ms. Vega?
So my question is will there be any difference in the budget? Will it cost us more or less, or will it be pretty much the same?
The calendar is based on their contracts, so they work a certain number of days, and that is per their salary and per their hourly rate. So there's no change to the budget to shift the calendar.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments from board members? Ms. Wilt?
I know that Ms. Ramos just said that they talked to the collective bargaining unit, but in the broader sense, has the AEA and the union leaders been able to survey their members as a whole, or has it just been a conversation amongst those that are usually part of that bargaining unit? I'm just concerned because, well, I don't disagree with starting earlier. I'm just concerned that, you know, we're close to the end of the year, and people like oftentimes plan according to what their schedule is for summer vacations and camps and things like that. And I'm just concerned that you know, we're doing it this late in the year for teachers who were anticipating. So I'm just curious what the, you know, if we know, was there a collective, you know, thought process put out to the staff? Does that make sense?
I understand what you're asking. What we did was we held a formal meeting with every bargaining unit president. We shared the calendar option that was not the traditional option, the before Labor Day start. We asked them for their specific feedback, their concerns, their questions. There was an overwhelming understanding on their part that the board directs that calendar, and that the policy is that the board approves the calendar by May. So they understood and appreciated that conversation and ability to hear it and gain input. I can't speak to whether they surveyed their members beyond that meeting. I can tell you we held the meeting before the Easter holiday. So there has been some time between that. It was March, I want to say it was March 31st. Don't quote me, but there has been some time that has passed prior to this be coming forward to you this evening.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions, comments, concerns? So so I guess maybe, I don't know, it's the best way to go around and just say if you want option A or B. Madam President, do you think that's the best option here?
I think that would be appropriate, yes.
Okay. Sorry to throw you off, Ms. Ramos. Can you do a roll call where we're all just say if we want option A, which is the start date of August 30th, or option B, which is the start date of September 7th? That's the student start dates, not the teacher start dates.
You're okay. I keep a roll call sheet in this binder just in case.
Sorry, I should have let you know.
Nope, I'm ready.
All right. So does everybody understand that option A is to change the calendar for students to start August 30th? Option B is to keep it as is after Labor Day. Students start on the 7th. You're going to say either A or B when Ms. Ramos calls your name.
Okay, option A is before Labor Day. Option B is after Labor Day. Ms. Conover.
Option A.
Ms. Harris is not present. Mrs. Johnson Watts.
B.
Ms. Matheson.
I'd really like to say C, which, and here's the reason. I'm a little afraid that because of everything we've been through with COVID, that a little bit of extra time might be useful this fall. So my official vote is going to be option B. But I think for September of next year, we should certainly look at option A.
So Ms. Matheson's option B.
So B officially.
May I say something? I know we're in the middle of a vote, but I was under the impression that this is for not this September, it's for the next September.
No, this is for this school year, for this upcoming school year, 2021, 2022.
And I'm rescinding, because I think I was clear before that I thought that it was too much for this year, but next year I would definitely be in favor of it. So can I rescind my?
You can, I'll let you change. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Ms.
You're
Conover's
welcome.
option B. Okay. Mr. Miller.
A.
Mr. Thiel.
Option A.
Ms. Vega.
A.
Mrs. Wilt.
B.
Mrs. Brace.
A.
We have a tie, 4 A's and 4 B's. So
Do we call in a lifeline?
well, since there wasn't a motion on the table, I'm officially confused. So I would have to. Mr. Taylor, I guess.
Yeah, because normally it would fail, but there's no option.
So okay, so I'll do this.
Mr.
It's
Parker
gonna
has his
fail.
hand up.
Oh, okay, go ahead, Mr. Parker.
So, and so, Mr. Taylor, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, because we were selecting options to move to the board meeting in terms of one recommendation. That doesn't preclude the dual option to move to the board meeting for an official vote at that time, when you would expect to have 9 members present, so that you wouldn't have a split. The vote today is to move it to the official meeting, not necessarily to make the final vote. We need to know sooner rather than later, but it does give us the ability to move it to the meeting at the end of the month for final designation.
You're correct.
Okay, so then we'll just vote now to move both options. I was trying to give you guys so you knew where to go, but it didn't work. So now we will vote. I tried. Now we will vote on just moving both options forward. And then at the board meeting at the end of the month, we will officially vote on, we'll do the same thing where we'll get to pick. Is that the easiest way to do this at the end of the month, or is that?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. So at the end of the month, we'll redo that. But for now, do I have a motion to move both calendars forward to the board meeting at the end of the month?
I'll
So
make the
moved.
motion. So moved.
Ms. Conover, seconded by Ms. Matheson. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so both calendars are now moved forward to the end of the month. Next on the list is Executive Education Charter School, Dr. Brown.
Yes, thank you, Mrs. Brace. I believe it was last June, during the June 11th Education Committee meeting, we presented a memo that spelled out serious negotiations between the Allentown School District and the Executive Education Academy Charter. And there were 4 elements to what defined serious negotiations. First and foremost, before any enrollment cap would be agreed to, there would be participation by representatives of the district and the charter school, as well as counsel for both sides. There would be 2 in-person meetings that would occur on or before February 15th and subsequently on or before May 15th. The charter would also be given the opportunity to make a presentation before the school board, and then regular communications between those parties identified earlier would continue, including their respective counsel. And so tonight we're here to and invite and listen to Mr. Bob Lysick and his leadership team make the presentation that we agreed to would be a part of serious negotiations. And so I don't know if Mr. Parker would like to make a few words before we invite Mr. Lysick to begin his presentation.
Just very briefly, thank you, Dr. Brown. You took all my stuff, so I don't really have a whole lot to add. Beyond just thank you to Mr. Lysick for agreeing to be here with us today. We also have Attorney Peterson, who is here with us this evening as well for the process and review. I've been continually impressed with Dr. Brown's work and her work in guiding the district along this path. So this evening, our responsibility is to ensure that we listen, and then administration will go back and process any outcomes in our collective meeting process.
Thank you. Ms. Peterson, before Mr. Lysick begins, is there anything you'd like to add?
Mostly that giant clock. Picture of the kids.
No, I do not have anything else to add. I think you both covered it very well.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Lysick, if we can have him, there you are. I think I see him.
I overheard you say that. I should say.
That's me. I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Brown. Appreciate everything.
You're welcome.
I know you gave us 10 minutes. Thank you. We probably will not need the 10 minutes. I would say it's probably like a 5-minute presentation. So thank you for the generous time slot. And congratulations to the district securing your field. I think that's a great idea with J. Bernie Crum. So that's exciting. So, I'll begin. For those who don't know me, I'm the CEO and one of the founders of Executive Education Academy Charter School. We're a K-12 charter school, and 8 years ago, we petitioned the Allentown School District, and we won our charter 9-0 by a board vote. Hope I don't lose my battery here. We based our charter school on innovation, business, high quality, and a strong school culture. But one thing that should be noted tonight is we made sure community would also be at the forefront of everything we do. We've demonstrated this over and over again over the years. I'm presenting this evening in support of our community and school choice in public education. I'm here to talk about the ASD student enrollment cap that Executive is subject to. I think everyone is aware on this Zoom call, but we are only permitted to enroll 910 ASD students at Executive.
That cap is a requirement imposed by the ASD in our charter. Our charter also says that beginning last year, the ASD will seriously negotiate, with us to increase the cap, as Dr. Brown noted earlier. Before the pandemic, our wait list was 700 ASD students. 700 ASD students and parents looked at our model and wanted to leave the ASD to join our school. We had to say no because of the cap. And that's tough. That's hard to do. I see it present day often. The pandemic has changed a lot. And that wait list now is currently 300 students. That's still 300 parents and students that want to leave the ASD and come to executive. And we expect post-pandemic that the wait list is going to go back up to 700 or even higher. Executive doesn't advertise, we don't market, that's all word of mouth. The ASD enrollment cap is a barrier. It's the ASD telling students and parents that they don't have choice. Last year, ASD's version of serious negotiations, which was mentioned earlier, was a way to string us along for over 6 months and then suggest a change to the cap that in most years would result in no additional students. ASD has said in the past that it can't afford to allow more students to leave to go to executive. Excuse me. This year, the ASD is receiving approximately $120 million in extra federal stimulus funding. I think that's really important in this discussion. And the ASD should stop treating its students like dollar signs and allow the children who wish to transfer to the executive to do so. We are asking tonight that the ASD remove our cap entirely. The decision should be left up to the parents to make the best choice for their children. If they want their children to remain in ASD, that's great. But if they want their children to come to executive, they shouldn't be blocked. We asked that the board vote on this last year, and we were repeatedly told by ASD's admin that this decision would not be put to a vote. We asked last week in a meeting with the ASD to please have the board vote. We were told the time isn't right. We believe that taxpayers of Allentown deserve a vote. We are asking the ASD school board to vote on this issue and allow parents to make the decision of where they can send their children. Thank you. And if you have any questions, I would gladly answer them now. Appreciate the time.
Thank you. Does administration have anything else?
Not at this time.
Okay. Next on the agenda is opening. Oh, Ms. Conover, I see your hands up.
I do have something to say, I think. Is the administration in a position, because I've been hearing a lot about federal stimulus money. And one of my concerns is that the public does not understand how that money is supposed to be used, how it's to be allocated. So can somebody speak to that?
All right. So I'll gladly take that one, but I'll call Dr. Brown and Jen and Harry is on here somewhere. They'll come in and back me up with anything that I missed. So my understanding in terms of the federal stimulus money is designed to support the educational portion is designed to support schools and school districts in providing the requisite level of resource support to ensure that students and families can continue in their learning through the next couple of years. So the resources that ASD and other districts are getting are designed to support the districts through the year 2023. And there's a list of options and criteria that schools can utilize or school districts can utilize to identify how to use those funds. For example, you can use funds to support facilities and improvement of facilities to ensure that students have a kind of a safe and reasonable experience in school buildings. You can use those funds to maintain the operations of the LEA. You can use those funds. There's a requirement on the third bucket of funding to ensure that 20% of those funds are used to support learning loss. For the most part, these are designed to be supplemental funds to the resources that you receive currently. When we look at federal funds, they're usually most likely designed to be supplemental and not supplant. There are a piece of the funds, I think number 8, where we talk about maintaining the operations of the LEA, where you can use some of these funds to support expenses that may have been traditionally general fund. You can use funds for those, but there's still a requirement for the rest of the funds to support that 20% learning loss. One of the things that's important, because these are federal funds, right? We talk about budget versus cash flow. And this is Harry, this is your world. When we talk about cash flow, because these are federal funds operate on a reimbursement level. So we're not going to get a check for $80 million and then we can go out and buy the requisite things that are desired. We have to purchase those items and then those funds are reimbursed through the process with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So there are 2 levels. A, what are the things that are eligible to be purchased underneath the auspices of these funds? And then B, how will the district be able to manage cash flow? And if you haven't heard, we are a deficit district. How are we able to manage cash flow to make the purchases of items, people, resources up front, and then go through the reimbursement cycle so those resources are returned to the district in a meaningful way? So I definitely know that there's a lot of misunderstanding in the universe around how these funds are flowing, because they flow to municipalities a bit differently than they flow to school districts, where municipalities may get resources directly to them. The school districts are, we receive kind of a budget, and then we have to purchase items and receive reimbursement. So Doc Brown, you want to jump in and clarify any of that?
No, nothing else to add, except that if I'm not mistaken, all LEAs and charter schools are all receiving a portion of ESSERS or CARES dollars as well.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And Harry?
Yeah, Mr. Parker, you did a great job of explaining all that.
I've been listening.
So if you guys are done, I just want to say this. And I want to be clear because I'm a parent too. And matter of fact, when I got on this board in 2017, I had a son who was in a charter school. And I said it before, and I haven't changed. You know, I did the commercial for executive education, actually, technically, because I love that school. But what I will not allow our government to do is to put our charters against the public school system, because the problem is not just the cap. The problem is monies are being allocated and people are not telling the whole story in terms of how this money's being given, and they're not telling the whole story how it's been allocated. So for parents, this is the picture. Yeah, I'm for parent student choice. You want your kid to go to a charter school, you should have the right. You know, I was one of those parents when I got my kid over there, they said, I'm sorry, the list is closed. And I accepted it. I didn't want to accept it. But what we also need to understand is that when kids leave our district, money leaves with it. And so if I keep sitting on this board year after year after year saying that we're going to bring our district back to, to where it needs to be, or bring it, raise the standard, I have to make sure as I sit here on this board that the people understand that the fight is not against Allentown School District and executive education. We should have ourselves in Harrisburg and in places and start fighting for their money and make sure it's being allocated properly. So I just want to, yes, I do remember the last time, maybe I shouldn't say it, but I'm straight in box. The way that our district may have addressed executive education, it wasn't right. I understand how, but we have to understand, the people have to understand Mr. Lysick, the CEO, represents executive education, and he has our kids' best interest at heart. But at the same time, as a board member and any superintendent, our superintendent that we have, any superintendent coming in is going to have to make decisions that's in the best interest of our students in our district. So, you know, we're going to take the vote or whatever happens from here. But I want people to understand that it's not us against them, because it's bigger than this. So we need to rally. Instead of fighting each other, we need to rally and go get our money. That's what we need to do. Because every time a student leaves our district, money leaves with them. And that's just the way it is. You know, and so like I said, I'm for parent choice. I'm for, and some might say, oh, Lisa Conover, you can't have it both ways. Yes, I can. Because it is what it is. And until we actually start accepting it and stop letting people say, okay, look, you guys got $2 million. You got $12 million. And then people running around like we're rich. They don't know that we don't have that money. That money's, you know, we got to spend money before we get money. So there's a lot of story behind that. So ask the right questions and don't be so quick to say that, you know, the ASD is just spending money or whatever the case may be. And I think that's all I have to say. But I refuse to be put against the charters. You know, it is what it is. And so if we're going to tell the story, let's tell the whole story. And that's all I have to say. Thank you very much, Mr. Park, and thank you, Mr. Lysick.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Are there any other board member comments? Seeing none, we'll move ahead to the opening of schools. Dr. Brown.
Thank you again, Mrs. Brace. Briefly this evening, we just have a routine update to our board and our community as to the progress we're making in moving toward a hybrid learning model. As you're aware, our teachers returned to the buildings on April 6th. We're happy to report that things are going well. Plans and provisions are still being made at the building level. We are poised to conduct our building readiness walkthroughs next week to ensure that we are within CD guidance and using the CDC guidance walkthrough tools that are available online. We're adapting them a bit for the areas where ASD is actually going a little bit above and beyond what CDC recommendations are, as you're aware, maintaining the 6 foot of social distance, even though the CDC has regressed back to 3 feet. Our schedules and arrival and dismissal information is being uploaded to our website and our webpage that has been constructed solely to provide hybrid information. So we're emailing things out, we're posting things out, and we're creating space on our website for our families and community to have access to. We continue to provide our PPE to our buildings in the way of masks. Our standard for masks will be 1 new mask to each student each day that they return, and we'll adjust our standardization, our sanitization process to accompany that. We're equipping each classroom with a kit, if you will, to include technology wipes to wipe devices in between classes, hand sanitizer, gloves, anything that our teachers and students may need as we begin to venture into this unknown territory for our teachers and staff. Our instructional staff has been working very hard and has finalized the hybrid instructional models, which we'll share more later on. We have specific instructional models that our teachers not only developed, but are still receiving professional development on, so that they're ready to implement that and run our hybrid and virtual classrooms simultaneously. Again, our focus is on preparing our buildings and preparing our teachers and supporting them as we prepare to welcome our elementary students back into our buildings on the 19th, and then our secondary students back into our buildings on the 26th. And so that is our update for this week, if you will. And so, Mr. Parker, is there anything that you would like to add to that update?
No, I think you did a very thorough job. Thank you, Dr. Brown.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. Are there Any questions from the board? Okay, that's the end of our business. Are there any comments from the public on non-agenda items? I'm going to start calling in order. If you can just state your name and the city where you're from, and then you'll have 3 minutes. First on the list is Sharon Billington.
Hi, Sharon Billington, Chew Street in Allentown. I have a concern that has not been addressed by the board. At every board meeting, there are statistics that are provided for attendance and behavior. As of the last board meeting, of the 5,000 plus high schoolers, a little less than half were attending 90% of the time. Around 2,300 were considered chronically absent, which is 18 days or more, and another 700 are at risk. There were over 8,400 attendance-related phone calls, over 5,500 attendance-related emails, over 4,000 letters that were sent, and over 2,500 home visits to these high school families, plus referrals to SAIP and outside providers. What is even more shocking is that the elementary schools have over 2,500 children at risk or chronically absent. It'll be interesting to see if these numbers improve in any significance once any reopening occurs. Additionally, the board should also compel the district to provide quantitative and qualitative data that learning has actually improved for any of these kids once hybrid begins. It should also provide some data or some type of documentation about the amount of time that teachers will actually be teaching the subject matter and engaging the students and not just reciting things over Zoom or Ingenuity or managing compliance issues. From my personal experience, my grandsons who attend Parkland and Bethlehem area school districts all feel that they are not learning any more or any better in person than they do when they are remote or online. They are all hybrid at the moment. In fact, they say that a significant amount of the time is spent on COVID compliance issues and teacher direction, redirection, which shortchanges all the students. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the list is Flavia Scott.
Hello, good evening. I'm here to speak to the school board in regards to, I've never spoken to the school board before. I'm actually going to be a new parent who's purchasing a home in Allentown.
No, I don't want to interrupt you, but can you just state your name and what city you're from for our records?
Okay, so my name is Flavia Scott. I'm currently residing in the Saucon Valley School District. I'll be purchasing a home and moving into the Allentown School District. And I wanted to speak about school choice and add to what Mr. Lysick said, which I was not aware he was going to be speaking tonight. I am in the middle of purchasing a home. I went to executive and I wanted to get a seat for my son who's going into the 6th grade. And I was told, that I'm going to be added to this very long waiting list. And of course, I'm very upset by it, because as a homeowner and a taxpayer, I feel like I should have a school choice. And listening to what the board member just said, it upset me even more. Basically, my child is a check, and it's unfair. It's unfair that he's looked at as a check, and I have to wait until the Allentown School District puts themselves together after decades of failure, and he has to be subjected to this. Not to give away to everyone, I've listened to the whole meeting. I know that there's people that's very passionate, but the Allentown School District is just not what I want for my child. And I feel that he should have a choice, and I should have a choice as a parent, as a homeowner, as a taxpayer. And I believe that this cap that is going on should be lifted. It's unfair to the children. They should have a choice. Saucon Valley, I'm going to pay more taxes in Allentown than I do in Saucon Valley. So, it's just very upsetting to listen to some of the comments made, just saying, basically that he's a check and I have to wait and I don't have a choice. And basically I'm just here to support the charter school that I'm not even in yet. Don't know if I'll have a seat. Don't know what I'll be doing in September, but, I definitely wanted to be a part of this meeting and, just give my thoughts on that.
Thank you. Next on the list is Ashley Strange. Please state your name and the city you're from.
Ashley Strange, she, hers. I live in Allentown, Pennsylvania. Like Flavia, I'd like to talk about the executive education charter school, but this is for things that were not on the agenda. On the agenda, it just says presentation, discussion, 10 minutes, executive education charter school. There's nothing else in the agenda that indicates what that's about. And so if I wanted to, at the beginning of the meeting, make a comment on what they're talking about, I wouldn't, if I had known that it was to, remove the cap for students going in, I would have something to say about it.
You can speak now on it. It's okay.
Okay, is there a way to update that in the future? Like make sure that there's some kind of exhibit or some kind of, because all of the other agenda points had exhibits.
It just depends if there would have been a presentation to show to the public. That's what's usually on there. Yeah, but if you want to speak about it, you can.
All right.
It's okay.
Yes. Well, it's a little bit of a roundabout, especially when it comes to charter schools. The reason why so many parents want to pull their kids out of the Allentown School District, and we're hearing this from parents all the time, is because they don't think that their kids are getting a good education. They don't feel like their kids are safe. We're hearing especially from queer, trans, non-binary students that they don't feel safe in schools, and that for some students, when they go to a charter school, they feel safer, they're learning more, they have more freedom. And the answer to that is not, oh, the reason why all these parents want to leave is because the school district is so bad, so let's let them leave. The answer is to improve the school district. And so I just want the school board to really take some time to understand that as we are seeing more people that want to leave the district, it's because there are things within the district that should be fixed and are possible to be fixed, but not if you lift the cap and allow more students and more money to go to charter schools. And that really comes from a full attitude adjustment from teachers to administrators to the board to decide how we're going to make these changes.
Thank you. Next on the list is Tim Carney. You can state your name and city.
Hi, Tim Carney, Coopersburg. I hope to speak to you in person in May. I did see Saucon Valley is meeting in person, including guests in their high school auditorium starting March 23rd. While I may drive in to teach, as many, I've been driving into Allentown to serve our community for 34 years, and I do consider it our community. I'd also add more than a handful of teachers do live in Allentown city limits. I've taught children and taught their children over the years. Last week, 2 of my students and their families joined my family, my personal family, at movie night. My sister, who helps immigrant children at Kids Peace, won a raffle at a local movie theater. My family and 2 of my first graders got to enjoy Jumanji and standing on the stage afterwards. It'll be something I always remember. April 14th, I'll be joining a little girl's home for her 7th birthday party. I already saw the cupcakes and cake, and I'm looking forward to it. I would also ask that the district listen to heat concerns with masking. Last week, we had a classroom already hit 83 at Allen, and I felt it was a relatively cool day. My colleagues, though compensated by the district, work summers and Saturdays during the school year at Giant to supplement her income. I present these only as examples of educator dedication and loyalty to city students. I would hope that any comments, whether speaking for or against opening schools, would be understood as most likely coming from a place of concern for self, students, staff, and their families, and student families, and that ASD educators be allowed to share those opinions no matter where their home is located, simply as stakeholders with a vested interest. I would also ask the community again for patience. We changed the way we taught last spring. We had to change again in September. We changed again this week. We will change again in April 19th. Our systems went off on Monday. My brand new ThinkPad randomly would go into airplane mode. And as far as I know, I was not in an airplane. I was in my classroom and already needs to be fixed. I still have a colleague with Zoom issues as of today. When colleagues speak to me, they always end with the line, and we don't have a new bargaining agreement. So please, I beg the district, please come to the table that somehow acknowledges the extra work, not the less work we've been doing this year compared to others. By the way, kudos for safeties at Hayes. I praise the board, administration, especially my building administrators, Mr. Schlegel and Mrs. Saba, my growing first graders, my wonderful classroom parents, including my dancing dad today and my exercising mom who was exercising with the class for my videos, and educators for all the hard work they do during this time. Thank you so much. Hope to see you in May.
Thank you. Next on the list is Yahira Aviles.
Hi, Jahaira Aviles, Washington, East Side, Allentown. I just wanted to start off by saying thank you to Mr. Parker and ASD for your stance on the PSSA and Keystone testing. Personally, mine will be opting out. Graduation, I appreciate the proposed plan, and thank you all for considering our seniors so deeply. In terms of the district calendar, although I understand all sides involved, and again, in situations like this, there is no right answer. It's always the best for our students and faculty and ASD. But I'm all for option A. Now, in terms of charter schools and the presentation given by executive, I have a lot to say, but I'm just going to state that I concur with all that was stated by Mrs. Conover. I also urge the board to take into consideration the number of students who return to ASD without any return of monies from charter schools. As Ashley Strange stated, the answer is to improve the district, not raise the cap or remove the cap. And ultimately, charter schools aren't for everyone. I had enrolled my oldest daughter into a local charter school here when she entered 6th grade. And she has a gifted IEP. I was very adamant and clear in that. And I was assured that it would be adhered to. 30 days in, I learned that the charter school was not fit nor capable nor suited to teach my daughter, let alone follow the gifted IEP that is to be adhered to. So there are many factors that come into play with charter schools, and parent choice and student choice is very important. It's crucial. However, making the best choice for our students is imperative at all times. And before we get to making any decisions that are going to affect our students firsthand, before anything or anyone else, I urge and implore you all to please do your homework and make sure that you make the best decision for our kids, because it is not to remove that cap. I can assure you that. That is all. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. There are no other hands raised. Is there any old business to come before the Education Committee? Any new business or grass catcher items? Seeing and hearing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Mr. Miller, is there a second?
Lisa Conover.
Conover, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the meeting is over. Everyone have a great night.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.